Was that awesome or what? It's so. I feel like we needed this movie right now. It's so amazing. I'm Stacey Wilson-Hunt from New York Magazine and Vulture. Very nice to see you guys. So I will waste no time in bringing the talent to the stage who made this amazing movie. Start with director Geremy Jasper.
Thanks. Hi, guys.
Actress Danielle Macdonald. And actor Siddharth Dhananjay. They like your movie, which is it's great. We don't always see this response, which is very exciting. So it's been quite a journey for this film, to say the least. Take me back a few years ago to when you, first of all, what inspired the script in the first place, but also its journey through the Sundance Lab experience.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey. We shot some of this in the town that I grew up in. Lou's Tavern is in my town. And, you know, I was a musician for many years, and when I was 23, I was living a life quite similar to Patty's. I was stuck in my parents' basement. My grandfather had a broken hip, and I was taking care of him, and I just was really struggling to get out and be an artist. And I just felt like that was never gonna happen. Never. I just felt trapped, and I was working shitty bartending jobs and catering jobs, and it just seemed impossible. And at night I was making tapes and filling notebooks with songs that no one was ever gonna hear. And it took a few years, and finally I kind of worked my way out and had a band, and we made records, and then I started directing music videos, and then, you know, over a decade later, was like, I want to write a film. It's time. I had come up with Ben Zeitlin, who made Beasts of Southern Wild, and his producers became the producers of Patti Cakes, and seeing what he was able to accomplish was really inspiring for me. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I've never written a script before, but I'm gonna write this story. And when I was 23 in Jersey, I had this idea for this woman, Patti. And she just popped into my head, not being like, I'm gonna make a movie about her. I just thought, like, one day this character is going to exist in the world. But then I had to make her, or I had to write her. And so I spent a year kind of developing it, and then my producers had a relationship with the Sundance Labs, and they said, hey, do you want to submit? And I said, yeah. And they said, okay, you have 19 days to submit a draft. How's that draft going? And oh, great. But I hadn't written a word yet. I'd just been chewing on it. And so I wrote
It's a great motivator. Yeah. It's a great motivator.
I wrote the first draft of the script in 19 days. I just had my little boy, my baby, and I was just staying up all night writing and writing and writing. And some of it was okay, and some of it was really shitty, but there was enough there and I was accepted into the labs, and that was kind of the thing that kind of pushed this film actually into being. And so getting into the labs, you know, my first screenwriting advisor was Quentin Tarantino, and it was like me meeting OZ. It was just like, it was way too much for me to handle. And through that process, you do the writer's lab and they do the director's lab. They just mentored me, and they made me go deeper and deeper and deeper into my own story and into the characters. And then through the director's lab is where I brought these guys in. So Danielle is Australian and had never rapped before. But she's obviously a brilliant actress, and I was willing to bet the farm on her, you know? I just knew that she could do it. And Sid, I found on World Star Hip Hop, had never acted before, but is a wonderful singer. So these guys were like a yin-yang situation, and they kind of took care of each other.
So how did your producers feel when you said, I have these great actors and they don't know how to do the things I need them to do in this movie, but they're really great and we're going to cultivate an environment for them to do it?
They were so down. Like they just they knew I knew the world so well. They trusted me. And they knew I was so passionate about it, and I was very, very, very picky. So I wasn't gonna, and also it was a test run going to the labs. We were able to see if it worked, see if there was chemistry, see who these characters were. So yeah, they trusted me, luckily. Yeah.
Very lucky. And Danielle, what were your biggest fears in ultimately when you got cast in the film after the lab? What were your biggest fears in saying yes to doing this? Because I read somewhere you said that you thought he was insane for
He is insane.
for choosing you for this.
It's not a bad thing.
No, it is. You have to be a little crazy. Let's face it.
Well, I kind of at the labs we had a talk, and Geremy was like, "I want to do this with you," and I was like, "Me too." So it wasn't necessarily like getting cast afterwards. It was like after the labs, it was happening. Yeah. But before the labs, I can't rap. And I couldn't do a Jersey accent at the time. So when he just asked me to come out and do the labs, because he didn't even ask me to audition, I was like, that's weird. That's very, very strange.
How did you find Danielle in the first place?
One of my producers had seen her in a film called The East and remembered her. He's like,
Britt Marling's film.
Yes, exactly. And said, "Oh, there's an actress that kind of sounds like what you're looking for. Maybe you can check her out." And I had never saw The East. I haven't actually seen any movies. But I just saw a picture of her, and this face is the image that was in my head for all those years, for over a decade. So it was, I knew when I saw, that's like a 1 in a trillion face, luckily. I mean, it was like winning the lottery, because you see someone like that and then is so brilliant at what she does.
And Sid, you have a very interesting background. We were just talking backstage. He speaks 5 languages, guys. Super smart. Tell me a little bit about what was going on in your life when you first met this guy.
Well, I was just graduating from college. I went to Grinnell College in Iowa. And I just got this random email being like, "Oh, we made Beasts of the Southern Wild and we're making this new movie. Would you like to be a part of it?" I was like, "Fuck yeah." Like, where do I sign up? So I did a tape for them and I sent it in, and they were like, "Oh, great, come to the labs." And yeah, that's when I first met these two. And yeah, it was kind of crazy because I don't really have a reference for anything. Like, I don't know what a director is supposed to be like, or like how you're supposed to be on set.
You're usually not this easy to work with, I can tell you.
Well, that's what everyone would tell me. They were like, "Sid, this is it. Like, you're never gonna do a thing that's as fun as this.
It doesn't get better than this.
It's just downhill from here." So yeah, I mean, it was a crazy experience, and it was to have these two be the people who were sort of supporting me through all of this. Couldn't be any better.
And what were Quentin's notes for you? I'm just dying to know what, this is such I can see him loving this story, obviously. It's gritty, it's raw, it's about people kind of suffering, but, triumphing. But I'm so curious, what were his base
Yeah, he had some great notes. The one that I really remember is the battle that she has with Danny, the rap battle. I think originally it was like more of a draw, or I can't really remember because it's a trap. But
in the parking lot.
In the parking lot. She might have even lost that battle. And he just knows audiences so well and knows what like when to turn it on or when to like hold back. And he was like, she should really win. The audience needs to see her, like what she can do here.
Maybe waiting until the end for her to win was a little too much.
Yeah,
like maybe sort of saving the victory to the end was like a little.
Don't let her just keep suffering. Like give her something. And that was great advice. He also told me not to start the film with the dream sequence, which I tried not to do. Actually, in the draft that we shot, it doesn't. I was like, well, Quentin said, don't do it. And I tried. I put this other scene there, and it just didn't work. And I think
Quentin has not taken all the advice that's been given to him over the years, so it's good.
Yes.
So Danielle, when you were getting into Patti's mind and her skills, first of all, you worked with a rap coach, which, by the way, I didn't know that was a thing, but there is such a thing as a rap coach.
I didn't either. Yeah.
What did you learn how to rap first, and then you tackled the accent piece of the performance, or was it concurrent?
Well, from the labs, from the time that we did the labs to the time we started production was about a year and a half. And so I basically, Geremy would send me raps every week and I would practice them.
And these are raps you're writing? These are all original?
No. Well, no. At first he was giving me raps that like just...
Classics.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone knows. I didn't know all of them, but I would learn them and I would send them back to him and he would send back notes either like, this is terrible, like... No, but there were notes. There were some that I just wasn't getting and were like, okay, that's not going to be the path that you go down.
Which was a tough one for you to nail down?
There are a lot of tough ones. What one did I suck at?
Easy Rider by Action Bronson
I was really bad
tough.
at that. Yeah.
And there was,
he made me do that like 5 times, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were really good at, did you do Truffle Butter?
I did. I loved that one. That was fun. That was a good one. Yeah, I found...
Yeah, I mean, we kind of like went through
everything.
hip-hop history, like 80s, 90s, you know, we just like a track every week.
And then I met up with my rap coach, who's just a local Brooklyn rapper who is awesome, Skyzoo. And I hung out with him and his friends. The first day I met him, I like spent 12 hours in the studio, or 8 hours in the studio with him or something, just hanging out. I don't know, getting in the vibe. And it was really cool. He helped me with confidence and movement and kind of just like really sitting in the beat a lot. And I started doing accent dialect work 3 months before shooting. And I started working with him maybe a month before shooting, my rap coach. Yeah, and Tim was 3 months before. Geremy would write raps and then I would break them down slowly and put in the accent and then speed them back up again, which was great. Except for when he did it the night before. He liked to rewrite raps very, very last minute, which I love saying because it was hard.
And once you mastered these moments, which are obviously the highlight of the movie, how did it feel when you were delivering these lines the way that Patti would deliver and the way that he wanted you to? How did it feel when you finally nailed it?
Yeah, there were definitely moments on set where I feel like I just didn't. And I would kind of be like, why can't I get it? And Geremy would have to be like, no, you're good. Like, don't worry, we're good. Yeah, he spent a lot of it like building me up, I think. Yeah, and I don't know. There was sometimes like we did the battle rap and that felt good. So I think that was like a moment where I was like, yes, we got through it, and it was fun.
It's also, she's not supposed to be perfect. I mean, she's never performed really in front of people, so I don't think any of us expected her to, you know, come out as Jay-Z and right out of the gate.
Yeah, that's what he told me to make me feel better. So it worked.
And Sid, how did this experience test you, you know, not having acted very much before? What was the strangest part of this process that you didn't anticipate?
I don't know. I mean, I've learned so much just doing this movie as an actor. I don't know, strangest part about it. Yeah, I guess that was, when we were at the labs, we were doing this one scene and I was just not getting my line and it just wasn't happening. And then Ed Harris walks in to watch us. And I'm like, oh man, this is just not gonna happen. And you know, I'm bombing it. And at one point he just goes, everyone time out, Sid, come with me. And he just like takes me to the side and like speaks to me for 5 minutes.
What did he say?
I don't know. I don't know. It worked though. We came back and I did it a few times and he like fist bumps and he walks off and I was...
He does have those piercing eyes.
Yeah, you can't look into it for too long. You like fall into this abyss. He's the coolest person I've ever met, I think.
He's a really good guy.
Yeah, that would have been one of the strange moments in my life, yeah.
And in terms of writing the raps specifically, did you see those as kind of sort of separate from the narrative? Did you kind of compartmentalize that process? Because I have a feeling it's, you know, you're telling little micro stories, but they're sort of apart from the main plot. Did you kind of approach it differently than the rest of the script?
Yeah, I mean, when I was writing the script, the fun part was always writing the rhymes, and I would kind of like almost freestyle on the page. And with doing the songs, I don't know, I'm like, The Wizard of Oz was a big influence on the film, strangely enough.
A lot of green, a lot
Yes,
of emerald.
exactly, and Oz and all that stuff. But like, what I love about Wizard of Oz or musicals is like, you can just say stuff in a song that if you actually had a character say, "I want to get the fuck out of here," it would sound like, oh Jesus, that's super ham-fisted. But when she's saying it in a rhyme, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. Like it's like okay, you can get away. You can like actually, you can either you can add layers to the characters, or you can be really sincere and straightforward. And I really like that, adding those dimensions.
We suspend our disbelief in those moments.
Yes.
Like that's why musicals, either people love them or hate them, because it just doesn't work for some people. But this is a nice bridge. It's not so far out of it that we're like, why is she talking about that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I kind of, because I came from music first and that was the place that I was most comfortable, I kind of I tried to think about it as almost like a record, and where would each song be placed, and how does that work in the arc of the story and the characters, and how can this song reflect what's going on dramatically, and some things I had, the Hunger Games that was a song that I just had, and it kept growing and growing, and I had in pre-production, and then we shot all these scenes because the script had like 7 scenes in a row, and it was like, oh, this isn't going to work. We're going to have to make this a montage, like a giant 7-minute music video. How do we squish all of these scenes and then kind of cut in between them these how do we have a verse and then break the chorus down and have a dramatic scene? And so my background in music videos and kind of obsession with Bob Fosse movies kind of came in very handy during those moments.
You don't see that intersection too often, Bob Fosse in music videos. Tell me about casting Cathy Moriarty, who is just absolutely just stunning as usual.
The best.
This is a role. She's such a beautiful woman and has played so many roles where she's just so stunning. And this was, let's say, she's kind of a little bit stripped down, little bare.
We aged her 20 years.
Yeah. She's very kind of heart-wrenching, but she is kind of becomes the soul, I think, in a lot of those moments. Yes. How did you get the script to her, and what was her reaction when she read it?
Really weird. I don't think I've ever actually told this story before, but you guys seem
good.
nice,
That's
so
why
I'll
we're
tell
here.
you this one. I somehow made this really strange short film for like branded content. Basically, like a leather jacket company gave me money to make this short film. But it was really weird because the star of the film was David Beckham, who's a non-actor and was not allowed to speak in the film. And then the first real actor I was ever going to work with playing against David Beckham is my favorite actor of all time, was Harvey Keitel. So this was like the first guy I was ever going to direct in my life. And it was, and we shot in Mexico, and it's like the circus thing. It's very Fellini-esque, and it was really wow. But there was a small role for a diner waitress, and someone said, well, Cathy Moriarty is like doing auditions. And I was like, no, Cathy Moriarty is going in for auditions? She's a legend. That's crazy. I was like, just get her out here. I mean, I don't even need to, so I never talked to her. I met her in the trailer in Mexico. She sits me down, and she just has this warmth to her, like this grit and this warmth. And that voice, it sounds like a Jersey diner waitress. And there was just something about her, because Danielle, Sid, and Bridget, who plays Barb, they have like the feel of the people that I grew up with, but Cathy felt like my family. She felt like my aunt. There was just something, she felt so Jersey to me, even though she's from the Bronx and then from Yonkers.
Kind of similar.
Yeah. But she's really glamorous and beautiful blonde hair, and there was something in her soul that just felt so right. And so I'm shooting this weird scene with her and David Beckham in a diner, and it's like, it's fine.
Do you think you were on drugs at some
point? Yeah, it felt pretty psychedelic. But I couldn't concentrate on it because I kept thinking about Cathy as Nana and Danielle, thinking about Danielle and Cathy together, and just Cathy in this role. And I only met her for 5 minutes, and I'm directing the scene, and I'm thinking about her as Nana, and I just start crying on set, which is not something that happens. It just like struck such an emotional chord in me that I'm directing this. I'm like, David, okay, you go over here. And I had to take a step away. I'm like, why am I crying in this diner? And I just had this emotional connection to her. I just knew she was going to bring something special to this. Then it took like another year or so for me to work up the guts and finish the draft and get it to her and kind of warm it up and see like where does her vanity lie, and like and luckily she was like, "Oh, I don't like it. I love it." You know? And so once I knew she was in, it was like I had my 3 generations. You know, it was really important that they, you know, Bridget like towers over Danielle and makes her feel like a little girl, but who's gonna kick Bridget's ass? Cathy is gonna kick Bridget's ass. You know, this is not gonna be like a little old lady. This is gonna be someone, you know, with the rules with an iron fist. So. Yeah.
And we were talking Bridget Everett, of course, mostly known for comedy. She's in Maria Bamford's show, Amy Schumer. She's quite a lady. She's hilarious. And for someone like Bridget who hasn't done a ton of dramatic acting, and also for these folks here too, you know, how much directing are you giving people in the moment about their performances? Or is it at the end of the day? Is it constant adjustments? Or is every day different?
I mean, every day is different and every actor's different. I felt like I like to work in small adjustments. I mean, these guys would be better, I think, because you kind of, when you're directing, you're in like some sort of weird voodoo trance where you're crying sometimes. And, yeah, I like to work with small adjustments, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, no, very like small. I feel like at this point we knew the character so well. It was, by the time we finished production, it was 2 years from the time we did the labs. And we were in contact the whole time about doing this, so it was almost second nature at that point. And in pre-production, I came out 2 months before we started shooting, and I was with Geremy pretty much every day in that studio, just figuring out Patti's voice, which was a really important thing. So I think that we kind of found it, and Sid and I worked on all of our scenes together because Sid had never acted before, and so we come in for our first rehearsal, and I've got the script, and I'm like, "Oh, where are we going?" He's memorized the entire thing. I was like, "Wait, what?"
I just thought that's how like everybody was supposed to show up. Like, I was like, "You don't know the lines? Like, what are you doing?"
It's like, we don't shoot for 2 months. What? So we worked a lot, and I feel like that's kind of where we did the most direction, was figuring out the scenes in that time. And then when we came to set, we were shooting really quickly. Really quickly.
How many days was the shoot in total?
It was 28 days.
Wow.
And there was, you know, because it was my first screenplay, I'd overwritten everything.
Of course,
and there were tons of scenes that didn't make it into the film, and extra characters, extra songs, and we just pushed and actually shot everything that we were supposed to. But there's like a whole nother movie that got
It's interesting to imagine it being longer with extra characters or songs. I feel like it's just perfect the way it is. I can't imagine, like, there's nothing extraneous. There are no scenes where I would think like, this is repetitive, or we've already seen this. So you edited yourself very well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's a really challenging part of the process. You fall in love with characters. Like there was a scene with Patti's dad.
Yeah. Oh,
that
wow.
was really
Who's Patti's dad? Now I want to know.
Do you know Artie Lang?
Of
the
course.
Actor? Yeah.
Oh my God, Artie Lang is Patti's dad. Okay, we're going to have to address that for the sequel, because I need to know what happens with Artie Lang.
It's a crazy scene. Oh my God, it was so crazy. It was amazing.
Every take was different.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking 11-minute long takes, and I just went with whatever he did, because he was just amazing. Like, it was crazy.
It was kind of like a Bridget thing where, you know, he
Mostly
had never
comedy,
done anything dramatic before, and really jumped at the chance to do it and really brought it.
Wow.
It was really emotional. I cried then too.
Well, he's had challenges the last few years in his life, so I think he can channel some of that.
Yes.
So since the film premiered at Sundance, how have your lives changed as actors? Are you finding people are interested in you for certain things? Is your profile elevated in a way that it wasn't before the industry, I guess, sort of gave this movie a thumbs up?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely changed. I feel like suddenly people see you in roles that they didn't necessarily see you in before. You know, they kind of will change a role to fit around you rather than you fit into a role, which is something that I didn't know happened. Until
Well, it does when you're good. Doesn't always happen.
I mean, it's been really great. It's people have been responding well to the film, which we're really lucky. And I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Sid's just moved here.
He just moved here yesterday. He's just yes. And Sid, how does your family feel about you having spent all those years becoming really smart and now you're just going to become an actor at this point?
They love it. They love
They
it.
do?
They're really hyped. They want me to do as well as I can, and they're really excited to watch the movie. They haven't yet, so yeah, can't wait.
Oh, that's so great. And where do they live?
They live in Indonesia.
Okay. Be interested to see how the movie travels culturally.
For sure.
And for you, what are you hoping people take away from this film?
I don't know. It's I don't really. I'm never good at answering that question. I mean, I do hope that people feel some hope and some joy and some sort of release, because
It's coming at an important time for
'cause
people
it's-
all over
it's
the world
rough out
feeling
there.
the
Yeah.
way Patti feels.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe inspired. I when I see things that maybe feel, when I see people on the screen that I'm not used to seeing, or situations, or even a style that I'm not used to seeing, I get very inspired. It kind of breaks open my imagination, and I hope that I can pass that on to someone else.
And have you been given feedback or a stamp of approval from someone in the music business whom you really admire, but maybe someone who is in the hip hop world who said that, wow, you've really nailed this world, this story, the music is great?
Yeah, I mean, Kirk Knight, who wins the battle, he went and saw it, and he's a really great guy and an awesome MC. And he didn't really know much about the film. I don't think he read the script. He
doesn't really
had
watch
never
films
acted before either. And he saw it the other day, and he flipped. And that, for me, that meant so much. You know. And he was just like, "Oh,
Is he a Jersey-based
No,
artist?
he's Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I gotta think if there's any Jersey MCs that I've seen yet. Not yet, but and even like, you know, MC Light saw it and she really loved it, and she's such a legend. I wrote the role for her, like just like a Hail Mary, like maybe she would do it, and just the fact that she's supporting the film, and like, you know, I grew up watching her on TV every day. It's kind of a crazy thing, but yeah.
And have people hired you to write lyrics for them now?
I'm open, man. I would love to be a ghostwriter. It's my dream. I had to create an alter ego
You
to
can
do
do
it.
both.
Yeah, not
Well,
yet.
We have a couple audience questions. I want to make sure we get to them. Geremy has a question for Geremy. Where's Geremy Klein? There you are in the center. Always a good question. What is the number one piece of advice you'd give yourself if you could go back in time? Maybe this is pretty much for all of you up here. And he says he's a filmmaker who needs it! ! Also, your movie is amazing, and I love you.
Thank you.
From one Geremy to another.
Yeah, I think it's about just pushing through. I mean, it took me. I've been making something for, if it's music or writing or an idea, just making something every day for over 20 years, and sometimes it felt like nothing was going to happen. And it's really about, you know, they say it's about grit, and I agree. Like, you just have to keep pushing and pushing and making stuff, and surrounding yourself with people who make great stuff, or stuff that you really love. I never thought I was going to be a filmmaker until I had friends that were making films and really inspired me, and showed me, like, oh man, you can actually do this. You don't have to spend, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars going to film school. Like, you can be like a garage band with this. You can get, you know, like, there's a real DIY attitude that I came up with, that I grew up with in the late 90s, that I feel like with the producers and with these guys, like, we are continuing that, and I think that's exciting. So just keep making and pushing.
And how about the actors too? Is there any advice you'd give yourself if you could?
I agree with Geremy. Just like, if you don't give up and you work really hard, like, eventually something's gonna happen. I feel like there's obviously a lot of luck when it comes to acting, but luck is kind of timing mixed with hard work. Like, you got to be ready for when the luck strikes, I feel like. So you just
Were you ready when this struck?
I said yes, even though it scared the shit out of me. So I guess so.
That's great. And Sid, in your long acting career, is there any advice that you would give yourself?
I don't know. I would say just trust your gut. I feel like I've spent a lot of time in my life overthinking things, and that hasn't really worked out. And, you know, just go with what feels right. And so far, it's been going pretty well. So, yeah.
I have to say, Sid has like amazing confidence, because he had never acted before, and before we cast him, we were like a little bit like, we were really betting on him, and I called him and I said, Sid, are you sure you can do this? And he just said, I'm gonna kill it. And I said, I was like, yeah, all right.
I think that's the old fake it till you make it adage, right? Which works really, really well. I employed that many times in my life. And finally, we have a question from Michael Villar. Is that right? Michael? Okay, he's disappeared. This is for Danielle. It's a very specific question. He says, from what I've read in an Australian publication, that you love the band Insane Clown Posse. What is... I said it was specific. What's your favorite song?
This is an inside joke.
How do they motivate you? I've never asked whether Insane Clown Posse motivates someone, but now I'm very interested.
I did a short film earlier this year with Michael. And we had to learn Fuck the World by Insane Clown Posse, which was... It was a lot to listen to and to learn.
A lot in general, just to sort of absorb.
Yeah. So, don't know how that... You know what I took from that experience? Even if you hate something, if you don't like something, you just kind of keep going until you get it. That's for the hard things.
That's the perseverance thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do have one last question. I would love to know if each of you has a favorite rhyme from the movie, that just a line that you still hear in your head, or something that really sticks with you that maybe has become a mantra.
I have one, but it's in the soundtrack that you guys haven't heard yet, so I'm gonna wait for it to come out. Yeah. Oh no, I don't want to say it. Well, I have the song. Do I have to come up with like the actual lines? Like I don't have a line. I just have a song that I think is. Well, it's called Patty Season, and it's coming out soon, I think.
We made our own, like a song outside of the film.
Yeah.
And we're shooting a video next week in Jersey, at Seaside Heights. It's gonna be this summer banger. Get ready.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So Sid, we're ready.
What?
Are you gonna perform?
No, I'm not gonna do it. No. I'm sorry.
Okay, Danielle, how about you? Do you have a favorite line, or do you still remember everything? Can you do like most of the raps?
I remember a bit. It's funny because like I'll listen to the song in the movie and I'm like, ooh, what did I say there? Like, you know, I know enough, and then there are parts where I know Sid's lines better than my own. Like at this point, I mean, because a lot of it, there were so many drafts of some songs that, you know, sometimes we started out with a song and then the majority of those lyrics ended up in a completely different song.
Oh, wow.
And it was like my brain was going crazy because I was like, I know this line to this tune, but now it's this tune, and now it's like I felt like I was constantly kind of insane a little bit. And it was actually really, like, if Geremy rewrote an entire song, it was easier to learn that than when he kept the song and just added in different lines and places. I was like, I can't, my brain knows this. So I don't even know.
Well, I think the battle in the parking lot to me was my favorite, just in terms of the stories she was telling. Is there anything from that one?
You know what, I love, and I always told Geremy this, I love saying, you mad, bro? That was so much fun to me. I don't know why, because he was so angry. And I just that was fun. I mean, he wasn't actually, because he's like the sweetest person in the world and couldn't actually do those. He couldn't do it. Like at first, he's like, I can't say this, and I'm like, do it. It was
You taunted him.
Yeah, I taunted him until I goaded him into it.
Well, it worked. Well done, all of you. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.